I'm Pat Doris. Welcome to The Story. All the ways to connect with us right there on your screen. You could send us an email. It's thestory@kgw.com. Or you could call and leave a voicemail, 503-226-5090. We'd love to hear what you're thinking about. This, with any luck, is going to be my last night broadcasting from home. I'm just about done with the COVID protocols, feeling just fine. Thank you. Tonight we're going to be shedding light on something that's become an epidemic in the Northwest. Native American women going missing at a rate that's much higher than anyone else. PJ Randoa takes a look at what indigenous families are doing to protect themselves.
In the Echo Hawk home,
I personally believe in like a cultural and spiritual call to doing this kind of art.
each stitch,
I did these handprints in the color of the native medicine wheel.
each shade
Red is the color of prayer.
comes with a story,
It's also a symbol of the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls movement.
and sometimes a reminder about the plan.
These kids, along with my own, they know that if their aunties or their mom ever went missing, that we would never have left them on purpose.
It's a plan Abigail Echo Hawk of the Seattle Indian Health Board says every Native woman she knows has had to make, what her family should do if she were to disappear.
They would need to make sure that somebody looked for us. For my children, they know that my handprints are on the dresses. They know that they would be able to take my fingerprints to the police. Do you ever remember not knowing about this?
No. We can be in danger. People won't get lost by not telling people where they are and not being careful. They don't come home and you don't get to be with your family anymore.
Here in Washington, Indigenous people are going missing or being murdered at the second highest rate in the country. Seattle itself ranks as the city with the highest number of cases nationwide. According to the Seattle Indian Health Board, compared to white women, Indigenous women in Washington are 4 times more likely to go missing. Right now, State Patrol records show 126 Indigenous people in the state who aren't accounted for.
Research has shown us that the primary perpetrator of the acts of violence against Indigenous women and girls are white men, predominantly white men who come onto reservations or target Indigenous women within urban settings.
With fewer resources, Native American families are forced to take matters into their own hands and form plans for their loved ones.
I have actually posted something on Facebook. If I ever go missing, know that I didn't do it on purpose. Come look for me. I love my family and friends. I wouldn't just disappear.
Nana Bluen has spent the past 2 years looking for her own sister, 39-year-old Mary Johnson. Mary was last seen on the Tulalip Reservation on Thanksgiving 2020.
We don't want her flame to go out, so we're trying everything we can to keep her name and face out there.
Mary's sisters, Nona and Jerry, believe she may have been a victim of human trafficking.
Yeah, what do you tell your kids about where she is?
I just say, Aunt Mary's trying to find her way home. And our eldest daughter, she goes like this all the time. You know, and she's like, Mom, can we email the chief and ask where she is? Mom, why aren't they looking for her? You know, how come she's not home yet? She can't be that lost. And I don't want to tell them that she's missing. So that's what I tell them.
Fire Trail Road. This is the road what Mary was seen walking on the day she went missing. We believe that she trusted somebody, got in a vehicle, and has never been seen since.
Tulalip Police Chief Chris Sutter sees Mary's case as a continuation of what's been happening to Indigenous people in America for centuries.
Historically, the wrongs that have been committed, including abductions and murders and rapes and all forms of sexual assaults and other types of abuses, have gone unpunished and unprosecuted. This has been perpetuated for centuries.
And it's because of that history, Chief Sutter has talked to his own children about the plan.
My children have all heard Dad preach to them, be aware of their surroundings and their situation, and don't trust people.
I wanted to do this in honor of the families.
Back in the Echo Hawk home,
Do you guys know that? We would never leave you.
Abigail hopes future generations won't need to prepare for their own abductions or murder by having a plan.
Having a plan is part of the hopelessness that's experienced by our communities. It's not something any of us should have to do.
Until then, Abigail creates hope from unlikely sources, like these flowers on her latest art piece.
And really thinking about every single person as a blossom, as beloved life.
When the Seattle Indian Health Board asked for PPE during the pandemic, the federal government sent them these body bags instead.
How many body bags do you have?
Got like 22 left.
22 body bags?
Now Abigail uses them to create art that highlights the issue of missing and murdered Indigenous women. One of her works made from these body bags has even been featured in Vogue.
My artwork is a form of healing.
She's also now using them to keep the traditions of her culture alive for the next generation.
It's cool because most people are not able to be a part of the culture.
The thing I love about it is that for these kids, this is just who they are. It's going to be pretty.
Creating hope and beauty from darkness.
There's hope on healing the past so that we have full healing for our community so their children's children don't experience the same things that I did, that they did, where something like this is never out of a body bag again. I refuse to let the hopelessness be all the conversation.
That was PJ Rendawa reporting. This is a problem in Oregon as well. 2 years ago, the state was tasked with creating a report explaining why there are so many systemic barriers when Native American women go missing. The group found data sharing between tribal governments and local, state, or even federal partners either barely exists or doesn't happen at all. Also, Native American communities in Oregon say there's a lack of trust between themselves and the government. State Representative Tawana Sanchez told us many people outside of Native American communities just are not aware that this is happening.
The true reality is, I'm going to look at somebody who looks like me and know and understand a little bit more about them because they look like me, right? But that doesn't mean I don't have empathy for other people who go missing as well, right? And I think that that's sort of where we sit in society sometimes, is we are looking at, we're reflecting our own self in the mirror and saying, oh my God, like that could be me, could be my friend, could be my sister, could be my relative, could be somebody I know, right? And we don't always do that with people of color.
The number of COVID cases in Oregon and Washington are on the rise again. And while you're not required to wear a mask in most places, health experts say it's a good idea now. I was able to talk to some of the leaders earlier today. So what are you seeing in Clark County? Is there an uptick in cases going on there?
Yes, and in the state as well.
Dr. Alan Melnick is the public health officer for Clark County. He told me the 7-day average of cases per 100,000 in the county is now 5 times higher than they were roughly a month ago. COVID patients are only using 9% of the county's hospital beds, but Melnick worries the number will go up. I think that people are not only tired of this pandemic, they're exhausted by it and so ready to move on that we're starting to have big in-person auctions and big in-person graduations and all that. And I wonder if it's just going to really, crank these numbers through the roof again.
That's the one thing I left out in my little spiel to you earlier. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think it's going to be very difficult to go back to the mask requirements and all that. People are tired of it. And you notice what we're hearing nationally about people, even prominent elected officials now becoming cases. People are going back to these activities. And we have a very highly transmissible virus.
Peter Graven is a science researcher for OHSU. He does the forecast for COVID in Oregon. How are things looking for COVID? It feels like we've got a surge going on.
You're right, we do. There's quite a bit of infection going on in Oregon with COVID. And, we knew that there was that infections were increasing in other places due largely to the BA2 variant, but also due to changes in masking policy. That was kind of the main policy that was still on the books. And, that restriction went away in March. And now we have seen increases in infections. The good news is that the hospitalization rate's been really low.
The Oregon Health Authority reports 171 patients hospitalized with COVID. That's far below the 1,100 at the pandemic peak. Graven thinks cases will continue to rise for another month.
My forecast that came out actually today is showing that, I see some more moderate increase over the next month or so, and then we should decline. That's given the kind of the variant composition that we know we have in Oregon. The viewers may know of BA4 and BA5, which are starting in South Africa and will probably spread to other places yet. We don't quite know the implication of that. It's another form of Omicron, and so therefore, likely to have that lower hospitalization rate, but could mean high infection rates again. And so, that's certainly something we're looking at. Right now, I'm not seeing a big surge on the hospitalization front from this. In fact, I'm seeing some good news in the Northeast. Some states there look like they've already probably peaked.
Let's wrap up our coverage of the debates for candidates who want to be Oregon's next governor. This week, we've been hearing from the Republicans, and just like with the Democrats, we asked them a lightning round series of questions. Here's their answers.
Was Joe Biden legitimately elected president? Stan?
No.
Bridget?
No one knows. That's the problem.
Bud Pierce?
He's the president.
So you think he was elected legitimately?
At the Electoral College, yes, he's the president.
And Jessica?
Yes.
All right. Do you ever see a time you would reimpose a mask mandate, Stan?
Nope.
Bridget?
Never.
Bud?
No, ineffective.
And Jessica?
No.
Is there a bill that you would have vetoed if you'd been governor? And if so, which one? Stan?
Most of them, but definitely some of the gun legislation that came through, especially the one that says, let me get my gun out of the lock, stop intruder, please don't hurt me.
Bud Pierce?
I agree with that. Second Amendment is so important to protect with veto gun legislation.
Jessica?
I would have vetoed that one also. I also wasn't in favor of the overtime legislation for agricultural workers. I think that really hurts the actual workers and these small farms that are really struggling to provide a living wage for people. So
just a word or a phrase here, guys. Just a word or a phrase.
The lightning round. Keep it short. And Bridget?
Long list, but the gun bill.
Okay. And all of the final design options for the I-5 bridge replacement include light rail. Would you support an I-5 bridge with light rail, Bridget?
Absolutely not.
Jessica?
Can we pay for it? We need the bridge for sure.
And you'd support it with light rail?
Yeah, if we can pay for it. If we can afford to pay for it, yes.
Only if more traffic lanes.
Only if there are more traffic lanes, you would support light rail?
Yeah, I would support the light rail part if there are more lanes on the bridge for traffic.
And Stan?
Nope.
What's something people would be surprised to know about you, Bridget?
That I just became a grandmother 2 days ago.
Yay!
Oh, congratulations. It's great to be a grandma.
Yes, indeed. Yes.
Congratulations. Jessica?
Oh, I bake really elaborate cakes.
Oh, yeah, we want to taste that. Bud?
I've become a connoisseur somewhatly of non-alcoholic beers and really enjoy them.
Oh, what do you recommend?
I like that edge, Coors Edge. It sounds like it's not much, but I really like the taste of it. And it's good. I like an edge.
And Stan?
Probably that I wrote the bill to legalize professional wrestling here in the state of Oregon.
You can watch more from the debate tonight on Straight Talk with Laurel Porter. That's at 7 o'clock. And you can watch the whole debate or the Democratic debate, or you know what, maybe both. Those are on our KGW YouTube channel. And don't forget to vote. Ballots are due in the mail by May 17th. A murder case in Gresham is getting national attention.
One of the things that haunts me about this case is just the level of pain that Annie had to endure for 3.5 hours.
The big question is, has the right person been caught?
Someone is doing time for this, and there's another person that police believe may be getting away with murder.
When the story continues. Welcome back. Keep on sending your questions and comments to thestory@kgw.com or call and leave a voicemail. 503-226-5090 is our number. Tonight, a murder that happened in Gresham back in 2016 will be in the spotlight on an episode of Dateline. Annie Hester was stabbed dozens of times in her home. During the investigation, police uncovered lots of clues that led to multiple suspects and motives.
One of the things that haunts me about this case is just the level of pain that Annie had to endure for 3.5 hours. And still, Annie has the wherewithal to fight for herself, call 911, and give out the information to get law enforcement there.
Ashley Korsland spoke with the Dateline correspondent who worked on tonight's episode.
Josh Mankiewicz from NBC's Dateline joins us. And Josh, the story airing tonight, it's about a murder that happened in Gresham in 2016 that involved Anastasia or Annie Hester. She was stabbed while she was sleeping, and this is the case you're featuring. What did you discover throughout your reporting?
Well, one of the fascinating things about this case was, how many potential suspects there were. A lot of times it's pretty clear who committed the murder. In this case, it was not. And getting from that starting point to the finish line involved some significant work and some significant luck. Gresham detectives did a great job.
And you did talk to a Gresham police detective for this case. What did that person have to say?
Well, we try to talk to everybody in every one of these cases. In this case, we sort of get the tick-tock of the investigation from the beginning. It was not clear whether this was random or whether Annie Hester was targeted. It wasn't clear whether this was something personal or something, whether it was somebody who was related to her or in her family or in her close circle of friends, or somebody that she knew through a dating relationship. And sort of figuring out all of that and wading through this long list of potential suspects is one of the things that made this an interesting story to tell, and also a challenge for law enforcement.
What else about this case was unique? What will viewers find intriguing to learn?
Well, I should probably warn people right now. The 911 call in this case is very hard to hear, and that's because it doesn't come from a witness or a passerby. It was made by Annie Hester before she died, and it is so difficult to listen to that we actually truncated the amount that we're going to be able to use on Dateline, just because it's pretty upsetting. That's the thing that leaps out at me for this.
And Josh, I don't want to give too much away, but where does the case stand today? Are you able to share information about that?
One person has been convicted. Another remains under some suspicion, but no charges have been filed. So someone is doing time for this, and there's another person that police believe may be getting away with murder.
All right, Josh Mankiewicz with NBC's Dateline. Josh, thanks for talking with us today.
You can watch Dateline's The Undoing tonight at 9 on KGW. For this week's Hey Help campaign, we're asking you to donate to Cascadia Behavioral Health Care. They provide mental and behavioral care, addiction treatment services, and primary care to vulnerable communities in Portland. If you want to donate, just hold up your phone's camera to the QR code there on your screen, or you can go to kgw.com/heyhelp. I spoke with their medical director about a new medication treatment that they are offering for people addicted to meth, something that has become a big problem in Portland.
I actually just got off a patient appointment, I did a phone appointment with someone who was my first patient to use it, and she just went an entire week without using, and she's so happy and she sounds so much better. And she said, a year ago, I would have never thought this possible.
Here's that QR code again. This is a micro donation drive, so feel free to give any amount, no matter how small. A former candidate for governor once claimed that eating at Moe's Seafood and Chowder makes you a true Oregonian. The judge in the case didn't buy it, but it did get us thinking, who is Moe anyway? We'll explore the history of the coastal favorite's name when the story continues. Well, it's finally Friday. Anyone heading to the beach? It's gonna rain, but it's Oregon, so maybe you expected that. If you're at the beach, you might think about checking out Mo's, great seafood there. And while you're there, you might wonder, who is Mo anyway? Well, we have your answer. Here's Devin Haskins with What's in a Name?
Sitting along Newport's historic bayfront, the original Mo's Seafood and Chowder has been around for more than 75 years. Okay, 76 if you're being picky. But to know the history of Mo's, you need to go back even further, to 1942. It started with a restaurant first called Freddie and Mo's.
And they sell everything from T-bone steaks to spaghetti, hardly any seafood on the menu.
4 years later, Mo bought Freddie out. The restaurant wasn't exactly what it is today. Check out this menu from 1950. A T-bone? You can get that for $2, or a hamburger for 30 cents. Seafood? Customers were more like, see ya later.
Nobody wanted to eat fish. So like your customer base were fishermen and longshoremen and loggers, and so you know they wanted like something, meat and potatoes and that kind of thing.
It wouldn't be until the late 60s that customers really came for the seafood. It was also the same time that Hollywood came knocking. That's Paul Newman outside Mo's on the set of his movie Sometimes a Great Notion, starring he and Henry Fonda. And that's presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy. Yep, he made a campaign stop at the restaurant, even asking Mo if he could take some of their chowder with him on his next campaign stop.
It was a huge compliment. He couldn't believe how good the clam chowder was, so he said, can you bring some for us to the airplane?
Today, Mo sells more than 4,000 bowls a day of their clam chowder. They pride themselves as being a family-friendly seafood restaurant. So now that you know what Mo's is, do you know who Mo is? Let's go back to that picture with RFK. Mo is in that picture. Yep, that's her right there in the glasses.
A lot of people think she's a guy. Yeah, so that's a really common assumption because her name is M.O.
Mo was a single mother of 2 sons and the driving force behind Mo's Seafood and Chowder. Her great-grandchildren, Dylan and Gabrielle McEntee, operating more than just a restaurant, but maintaining the legacy of their grandma.
I don't know if there's a day that goes by I think, well, I wonder how Granny would deal with this.
They describe Mo as a family-loving woman, someone that knew what she wanted and had a mouth of a sailor.
Very generous heart, but also she would tell you exactly how she thought. She did not mince words, and sometimes those words were 4-letter words.
Mo died in 1992 at the age of 79. And the name Mo, well, that comes from?
Her real name is Mahava, actually. It's a really beautiful name, and she just shortened it to Mo.
And that's What's in a Name. I'm Devin Haskins, KGW News.
With any luck, this is the end of me broadcasting from home because of COVID. And since it's Friday, I thought I'd give you a little look around at the studio. It's not much really, just a spare bedroom with a ring light and a DSLR camera on a tripod and a desk. It's kind of bright when you sit in front of the light. Some of you have asked about my old typewriter. It's an LC Smith & Corona, and no, it does not work right now. So if you know someone who fixes these, please let me know. I also have a cool fighter jet model that was made by a former Clackamas County sheriff. He loves to fly as much as I do. He did a great job making it into the KGW jet. Look at that. He even put my name by the pilot's seat. I have lots of books in here, from Dave Ramsey on the right to John Maxwell and the Les Schwab story and Born to Run, which is a book about running barefoot. Good read, but I'm not trying it. I've also read Brene Brown's book, The Mayo Clinic Guide to Stress-Free Living, and that sports nutrition book is really good. The Katharine Graham story is wonderful, as is the Tim Russert book. And besides my family, I have 2 cats helping me out. This guy is named Oatmeal, he's 11, and so's his brother Russell. We adopted them from the Humane Society as kittens. Well, that's the end of our program. Thanks for watching, and a very happy Mother's Day to all you moms out there. Thanks for joining us. Just remember, the story, our story, well, that never ends. I'll see you Monday night.